Hello and welcome back. I've got here a 2012 XC60. I'm going to be showing you how to remove the intake. This is a 3.2 liter non-turbo. The turbo would be the same procedure, except it's a little bit easier for the turbo engines because you don't have this tube running down and it's shorter. So it'll be a little bit easier and a little bit less work. So first, I'm going to disconnect the negative battery cable. First, I'm going to remove this rubber seal. I'm going to remove this first cover. This clip is broken. There's a second clip here, and there's one here that's also broken, and there's another one down there. This one's also broken. This cover comes off. Turn this to open. Make sure to use a flat screwdriver. Phillips won't work. That's why this is already stripped. Pop this cover off. I'm going to remove the negative battery cable. I'm going to be using a 10mm socket. I'll just wiggle this off. And that's there. I usually put this cover right here just to keep the negative from going back and touching the battery. The second thing we need to do is remove this cover. This is the engine cover. Nothing holds it but these rubber grommets. Just pops off. Also, we're going to be removing or loosening this clamp for the intake, and then after I loosen that off, I'm going to be loosening, I don't know if you can see it, but there's another clamp right there. I'm going to be showing you how to remove it from the bottom. Also, if you got a long extension with 7mm with a swivel, you can get to that clamp without going to the bottom. After I loosen this clamp and this clamp, there's one connector here, and there's a second one right there. That's two. And there's a third one underneath. You can see it right there. You can also reach this one from the bottom if you take the bottom cover. It's easier to kind of reach it from the bottom. Then once I remove these three connectors, we're going to be removing these 10mm bolts. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Also, we're going to be removing the bleeder hose for the intake. It kind of gets in the way when you remove the intake. And to remove this, you just push down on it and then you pull back on this part. I'm trying to focus this part right here. So you push down on the elbow and you hold this in place and then pull back like that, and that comes apart. You can get that out of your way. So I'm going to be removing all these bolts, the two clamps, the connectors, and I will be back. Okay, so I removed the intake hose. It's right here. As you can see, this came off, but no worries. You can pop this back in place. Just gonna push it back in place. Removed all these bolts. Disconnected these two connectors. And now I'm gonna put the car up in the air and show you what we have to do on the bottom to remove the intake. So this is how it looks like underneath. We gotta remove this cover. There's these Torx 30 bolts I'm gonna remove this cover. They just go all the way around for the belly pan. I'm gonna remove that, and then we'll be able to see what we need to see on the bottom. So remove the cover, and that's what it looks like underneath. There's your oil pan, it's a coolant line, and this is the bottom of your intake. And now you see why we need to come to the bottom. There's these two bolts. They hold the intake onto the engine. We need to remove these two bolts, 8mm bolts, and then the intake should be almost ready to go out. We also have the connector on the bottom I was telling you about. It's much easier to get to it from down here. I mean, it's right there, you know, versus trying to get it from the top. It's a bit tight. So you just reach up, push the lever down, you hear it click, and pull back, and that's the connector. I'm going to remove these two bolts, and then I'm going to bring the car back down so we can remove the intake. Okay, so I removed the bolts on the bottom. I disconnect the bottom connector. I got all these bolts on top removed. I have removed this connector just to give me some room. And the only thing I got left is a couple more things. First thing I wanted to mention, there's a little clip down here. It just clips on into the intake to hold the wire in place. So you just gotta pry bar and pry it off, just like that. And that's off, out of the way. The second thing is the evap valve has got a connector right there. It's just got a clip. You just push the metal clip down like that and pull out. Some were tougher than other. So I got this connector off. Just this metal clip. Squeeze it down. Sometimes you have to push in and squeeze it. Now, this is the hose for the evap. See where you got these lines right here? There's the same lines on the other side. That's where you squeeze it. You just squeeze it and twist it, and it comes right off. And this line, you can push it down this way out of your way. Just don't forget to plug it back in. Now, intake should be loose. And here it is. Alright, the only thing is left is the throttle body connector. It's very hard to see, but there's this hose, it's right in front of it. You could see the wires. What I do is I grab the hose and I put it on top of the throttle body, just like that. It gives you more room to the connector, and then you can reach in, and you have to squeeze the side that it's toward the engine block, not toward you. That's where the clip is at. You squeeze it, heard it click, and then you gotta pull toward the battery, the right of you. Pull it back, and that comes off. They're a bit pain. This is the clip. Just push down. When you get this unplugged, you take the hose and you throw it back where it belongs, so it's out of your way. Now, ready to pull the intake out. You got to push it back, up and back, past the sensor and past the coolant line, and pull up at the same time. It's a bit tight, but there is no need to remove anything else, and you'll see. I'm going to set the phone down. It's kind of hard for me to do it with one hand. And just like that, it comes out. Now, one thing I want to mention, you see there's a grommet missing. This grommet, sometimes they fall off once you pull the intake off the block, and you probably will find them on the ground. Just pay attention to that. There's a rubber piece and a metal piece goes through it. I will show it to you once I find it. But this is the intake. It's out. As you can see, almost most of the time there's so much oil. These engines burn a lot of oil, and these gaskets are almost impossible to reuse. They're so hard and they don't look good at all. So if you're thinking about removing your intake, make sure to get some of these gaskets. I know they're a bit expensive. They're about $30 a piece from the dealer. I'm not sure if they really sell them in aftermarket places. If not, get hold of me, leave a comment. I might be able to give you a better deal on them. But that's all it takes to remove the intake. Then you do whatever you need to do, and when you're done, you just reverse the procedure. You slide the intake back down, and pretty much everything you unplugged, you plug it back in. It's that simple. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.